Welcome back to Cats and Camo. Diamondback DB-9 Part 2. We are shooting steel with this tiny little thing. Instead of doing the 5-plate knockdown, since this is a carry gun designed for shooting center mass at fairly close range, what we have are 3 steel targets. We're going to shoot the one on the left. We're going to shoot the one on the right. We're going to attempt to shoot the hostage taker, the little carry gun, and then we'll shoot the one on the left again, and then we'll shoot the one on the right again. The little DB-9. I changed gloves, going with the little Magpul. Hopefully it'll help. I can already tell I got a better grip. I can actually feel the gun in my hands. We'll see if that makes a difference when I shoot it. Oh yeah, that made a huge difference. This is actually an accurate little gun. Some of the really early reviews on this gun showed that. There was a SWAT officer in Florida that actually took this through the qualification course and passed using the little Diamondback. I really enjoyed this round.
I was actually surprised in the first round. So far, I'm liking it better than I like any other small gun that we reviewed so far. But I haven't shot steel with it, so we're going to see how it goes. Not bad.
Let's start our reviews as always, 1 through 5. 1 being this needs fixed, and 5 being this is the best in the industry. Comfort of grip. I gave it a 3 because despite the fact that it's all hard edges, it's very flat, and just looking at it, it's kind of square. When you're, granted, it has black talon rubber grips on it to help mitigate that. And we shot with gloves on, which we'll get to more later in the scores, but I gave it a 3 just because for a carry gun, taking into account it's not supposed to be really good in your hands, it was more stable when I shot it because of where it sat than I thought it was going to be.
Holding this gun, and again, we did have to shoot with gloves on the range, so I'm trying to take into account holding it in the studio versus actually holding it out on the range. And I did find it a little difficult to get a good grip on it with the gloves on. However, it's a tiny gun. Gloves add to your hand length, width, whatever thickness. And so I don't want to score it lower because, hey, I wore gloves and I couldn't, that's not the gun's fault. That's the weather's fault. So I gave it a 3, industry standard. It's comfy, but still, again, what I would expect from a small carry gun. Not necessarily very comfortable to hold, but comfortable enough to be able to hold it and shoot it. So, 3.
All right, well, let's talk about the sights. You're looking at it from this angle, so the sights don't really stand out much, but when you look at it from the rear, you can see this actually has 3-dot tritium night sights. So, sorry, I get excited about that. Allie hasn't shot at night, but having glow-in-the-dark sights that are visible in daylight, the 3-dot that are easy to pick up on a gun this small, I didn't expect to see that at all. And these aren't even aftermarket. You didn't used to be able to get aftermarket night sights to put on a little Diamondback. These were factory special edition slide that came with night sights. Gave it a 4.
Well, actually, that's an interesting point, and something that, as I'm learning about guns, something I didn't take into consideration originally was that it is true that a lot of smaller guns don't focus on the sights as much. It seems more of a, I'm taking this out, I'm firing it, I'm not trying to line up a shot. It's just a, this is self-defense, back off. That being said, I'm actually going to change my score. I was going to just give it a 3, but considering that most small concealed carry guns, again, don't focus on that, and these people did take the time, I'm actually going to bump it up to a 4. Because that is actually a plus.
Way to go, Diamondback. You impressed Allie. Let's talk about the trigger. Right. The trigger on this is a long reset. And that makes it not just, it's a long pull so that it doesn't fire quickly. That's a safety feature built into most carry guns. They're not designed to just put your finger through the trigger and oops, I fired off a round. It's a long trigger pull, but it's a really long reset, which makes follow-up shots really difficult to do. And in a self-defense situation, you have what we call the rule of 3. That's for an encounter that you have to fire a weapon. Statistically, it's 3 rounds inside of 3 yards in less than 3 seconds. And with the long trigger pull and long reset of this gun, it's going to be hard to do 3 shots quickly because it doesn't reset quickly enough. You saw the shooting. The first time I was wearing just my normal mid-cold weather gloves, and the gloves were too big. I couldn't reset the trigger. After I fired the first time, I released, and the trigger didn't reset. I had to pull my finger out of the trigger guard in order to let the trigger reset. So I switched to the lightweight tactical gloves for the second shooting. But having said that, it's 2. This is below average. The trigger works, so I didn't give it a 1 because I don't know that you may have to redesign the gun more than it's worth for your purposes, Diamondback. But the trigger's a weak spot in this gun.
The trigger just had such a long pull on it, and it, again, long reset as well, and I lose all my confidence. I would not feel comfortable in a life or death situation pulling this trigger because, I mean, I guess, yeah, it just pull, I guess, if that's the only purpose for it, but I never know when it's going to fire because I never know where that trigger's going to stop. So
I laugh, but that's actually a big deal. You want a predictable trigger. You want to know where that take-up ends.
Yeah. So
where it fires.
For that reason, I gave it a 1. I would seriously be like, fix this, please.
All right, well, let's talk about perceived recoil. This isn't a gun that's real pleasant to shoot over and over again. It's not going to be a range toy. You're going to have to make yourself, if you're going to carry this gun and you want to be familiar with it, so you're going to shoot it, practice with it enough that you're comfortable using it if you had to. But this isn't one that you're just going to go, hey, let's go to the range. I got an extra box of ammo and I got my Diamondback on me. Let's go shoot. It's not comfortable. It can hurt without gloves. It's not real pleasant. I gave it a 2.
I actually liked the recoil on this. It was more pleasant than what I was expecting. And again, that could be because I'm wearing gloves. It probably was. And so you can yell at me in the comments being like, you're dumb.
We'll let you shoot it again sometime without gloves when the weather's nice.
And then I can go cry in my trailer afterwards and be like, But with gloves on, at least, it was pleasant to shoot. And again, the 9mm gives it less of a recoil than a lot of other ones. So I ended up giving it a 4.
All right, let's talk about accuracy. This has a 3-inch barrel and really good sights. And so the amazing thing is, if you can live with the long trigger and the uncomfortableness of the recoil, this is a really accurate gun. Not like, as far as carry guns, not quite to the SIG 938 level, But there's a huge difference in price too. You can buy 3 of these guns for what you'd pay to get 1 of the 9.3/8. So you could arm 2 of your friends too. Anyway, for an accuracy, I gave this a 4. Way more accurate than it has any right to be.
For me, shooting this gun, the accuracy seemed to meet my expectations. Again, I'm still a new shooter. I'm still learning proper grip, trying not to flinch when I'm terrified of the gun that I'm shooting. So it just, again, not a bad thing, but industry standard, off the line, 3.
Let's talk about ease of reload. This carries 6 rounds. The slide does not lock open after the last round. But the magazine reset button works as it's supposed to. It's recessed so it doesn't snag when you're wearing it in the rear pants pocket and the magazine doesn't kick clear, but it releases, pops loose, so it's easy to pull out. And putting another magazine in is clean. For a carry gun, it works just fine. So I gave it a 3.
You would think small handguns, small hands, tiny button, no problem. But that wasn't the case for me. Again, maybe I'm holding it wrong, maybe it's because I'm left-handed and I have to do a switch, but the button for me just seemed to stick. I couldn't get it, maybe I'm just weak, but the button I couldn't get, like, it took a couple, like, bam, and then it would drop. Again, it still drops clean, easy to go back in, but because the button is just tricky for me, it's a little sticky, a little hard for me to just hit and bam, I ended up giving it a 2.
Let's talk about reliability. I've had 0 problems with reliability running just standard 9mm and 9mm jacketed hollow points through it. But because of that, everybody knows Diamondback had issues with feed issues early on with this. I'm giving it a 3. I know it's not fair to judge the old one and the new one, but you have to take the gun as a whole, not just, for me, I have to take the gun as a whole, not just, hey, this is how I shot it the one day at the range. That's her job.
The reliability factor for me just, it takes a step down. I get it's a carry to conceal. I get it's just a ditch last effort. Someone's charging me, blam, blam, blam. But because the trigger makes me so unconfident, I'm afraid the person's going to get to me before the pull actually comes through. And so because of that, I wouldn't call this a reliable gun. Yes, it goes bang, which is why I didn't give it a 1. It will eventually fire, but will it fire before the guy gets to me? I have no idea. So that's why I'm giving it a 2.
All right, well, let's talk about ease of maintenance. The Diamondback, the DB-9, on the other hand, comes apart exactly like a Glock. And if you can get a gun this small that comes apart as easy as it did into those component parts, easy, clean, simple to put back together, I'm giving it a 5. This is the best in the industry for a subcompact. Comes apart the easiest, goes back together really easy.
For me, what really matters when it comes to ease of maintenance and cleaning is not only how easy is it to take apart, but how many parts I have to deal with. And this one seems like, again, it comes apart like a Glock, so it kind of meets an expectation I already have of this many pieces and this easy to take apart. So there's not a lot of extra pieces, there's not, but it didn't necessarily shine and be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, because again, I'm still new to guns and everything. So I just gave it a 3.
Well, let's add them up. When you combine all 8 scores, I ended up with a 26.
When you add up my score, it ends up coming out to a 22.
When you average our scores together, we averaged. The price on this gun has come down a lot more than the MSRP has. You can get this gun at gun shows and at gun shops for $225.
Wow.
And that changes the value of that score quite a bit. That you have something that's this concealable and works this well that you can shoot accurately for that price.
Yeah,
So
it
if you're budget economy minded and want something that is easy to put into a purse or a wallet holster, keep the Diamondback in mind.
Well, that's all the time we got for today, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. And if you enjoyed this video, point those crosshairs to the like button down below. And make sure to stay tuned for more reviews coming soon.